Well, welcome to my talk. I'm going to talk about the what, who, and the why of fractional CTO. So fractional is a word and a role that's becoming more common nowadays. It seems it probably started in the finance and the marketing space, but now we're seeing this more and more with more different roles. And I realized it was the easiest way to describe what I was doing. So this was like back in January, where I was still trying to figure out what my sort of freelance business was. And I realized that fractional CTO was probably pretty close. So this talk is really about the what, who, and why of the fractional CTO role based on what I've learned. A little bit about me. My name's Ceri. I've been working in tech and data for over 20 years. I now work as a fractional CTO, but also a tech mentor, and I advise startups on how to build their ideas. I'm also a co-founder on a green tech fashion startup, but I'm not really here to talk about that today. So let's get into what is a fractional CTO. At its most simple, fractional just means part-time, and CTO, which is Chief Technology Officer, is basically the head of technology. So you're basically a part-time head of technology for a company. And what's the difference between this and a tech co-founder? Well, a tech co-founder you typically bring on to actually do the build of your system. They'll take equity in the company, so become a part owner of it, and they're typically working like just for you. Whereas a fractional CTO, I don't take equity in the company. I'm typically not building the code, although I'll caveat that a little bit later on. And I work with multiple companies at the same time. So I'm working across lots of different companies. So I'm not invested in just one. And what's the kind of things I do? Well, as I've alluded to, this is more of a consulting role. So some of the typical things that I go through. So technical feasibility is a big one, especially with the very early stage startups. You get the questions like, can I build this? Where do we even start? What's the right sort of technologies to use? Who do I get to build it? So I do a lot of that. And often it's just reassuring people like, yep, your idea, you can build that. Or here's where you need to look. Here's some things you can try, that sort of stuff. I do MVP workshops, which is basically finding ways to test your idea before we really go to start building the software. Software is kind of expensive to build. Many of these companies don't yet have investments. They've just got the cash in their own pockets. So we really want to find ways to test this. So sometimes it's just a case of like using Typeform and Excel and that kind of thing. That's a company I was talking to yesterday. And we've started to talk about, okay, we've done that. We're proving out the idea. We're proving out our rules and that kind of stuff. And then later on, we will go to the build. So we've been talking like just yesterday about how do we go from testing out the idea to then actually building it. So again, they're very early stage, no investment yet, but they're able to prove out their idea with the hope that when they go to investment, to try and find investment, they'll have a much better result. I do a lot of tech planning and strategy. So this tends to be for sort of pitch decks and investments, investment decks and similar. And it's just trying to establish that, yes, this is doable, this is scalable, here's how we're going to do it, here's when we might have our dev team, here's how we're going to start this, whether we're going to use like no-code tools, or whether we're going to get in a tech co-founder, or whether we're going to maybe outsource some of it. Slightly later on, I talk to companies about like scaling their team and their technology. So, okay, you've got the first thing going. Now we've got some customers and some interest and some investment. What do we do next? As I say, I don't tend to write the code, but for the early stage startups where it's kind of all hands on deck, I do a lot of sort of scripts, like pulling the metrics out the database, building up dashboards in things like Google Analytics or in Looker as well. And I do a lot of the cloud platform management as well. I just pick up some of those little bits that need to happen. Also security and data protection and all those kinds of things as well. Ooh, press the wrong button. So A few examples. So I worked with a company who a CTO was leaving. So I basically acted as an interim CTO for a day a week to help smooth that transition from one CTO to the next. Just meant I had a really nice, easy transition. I've done a bit of assessment of tech stacks, so taking a look at what's already been built. Is it fit for purpose? Has it got tests in it? How easy is it to scale from this point? Are they using modern dependencies, or is everything outdated? Definitely seeing some good and some really bad in that one. I did a bit of coaching of aspiring CTOs as well. So a couple of very small startups, they've got their tech co-founder or their sort of lead technical engineer, and I'm helping them to sort of learn and develop those skills that they'll need as they go into a CTO position and start scaling out that team. As I've alluded to, managing outsourced development. So sometimes this is the right solution for companies, is to go to another agency or organisation, whether in the UK or beyond, to build out their tech. So I manage that process, really, just the day-to-day, answering the tech questions and translating from what that dev team is saying, what the issues are, into words that the founders can understand and can relate back to their business. I advise on appropriate technologies to use. And lately, I've been doing quite a bit of AI strategy and data work as well, just because it's the big thing. It's becoming more and more popular, and it was something I needed to know about. That's the what. So who do I do this for? So I work across startups at various different stages, from very early stage, where it's literally just the founder or founders, right through to people who are scaling up. So with the very early stage folks, often starts with mentoring. So I work with a couple of accelerators so that we can sort of offer that mentoring free of charge, because these people don't have a lot of money. So the accelerators pay me to mentor other people. So I get paid for my time, they get expertise, everybody's happy. These are the folks I'm typically doing the MVP workshops with as well. So how can we figure out what to build, what to test? And do you need to go to software? When might you need to go to actually build your own software? But helping them gain confidence in their idea. As they grow a little bit, start to get to that build stage, it's much more about the tech strategy, gaining the investment, managing the outsourced teams, advising on longer term plans, weighing into pitch decks, even being on the pitch decks and investment meetings so that I can answer any of the tech questions that come up. And then on the scale up side, it's more advising on like what sort of team structure you might need, what sorts of roles you might need to hire, long-term feasibility of the technical stack, cost optimizations on some of the cloud platforms as well, and acting as this interim CTO, helping with them hire full-time people. So why do people need this role? Why do startups need this? Typically, I'm working with non-technical founders. So they need people who need help building out their tech ideas. So some of these folks might eventually go with a tech co-founder, but that's not always the right position for everybody. Tech co-founders might take equity, which is something people don't want. Maybe they're not ready to build yet, but they still need some tech advice. They might not have time to wait for a single person to build it all out, but equally they can't afford to bring on like a whole development team. So in this sort of case, a fractional CTO who works half a day a week can be a really cost-effective solution for them getting what they need to advance their startup. Why do I do it? I absolutely love this job. I fell into it by accident just because people asked me to help out after I'd been made redundant when unfortunately CodeClan went into liquidation. It took me a few months to realise that, yeah, I do really enjoy this. I want to do more of this. And I love working like here. I get such a variety. I get to do lots of different things, different companies, different domains. I bring in, upskill my knowledge really fast as well. So that sort of boost you get when you change jobs and you have to get up to speed really fast, but you learn a lot as well. I get that with each new client, so I'm gaining knowledge so much faster than I was before, and I really love that. And I just love the challenge. It's never dull. Multiple projects on the go at different stages of development. There's always something to keep things interesting. So I just find it absolutely fascinating. What kind of skills do you need to do this sort of role? Obviously, you need the tech skills. You might not be writing the code, but you need to know about how the code is written. So you've been there, done that. I think it helps if you've worked at a senior level or otherwise in a role where you've had to appreciate how a business works and how to balance business versus tech needs, because that's a lot of what I'm doing in this. It's like, okay, we need to get this built as fast and as cheaply as possible, but equally we don't want to leave ourselves with a huge maintenance nightmare or a big ton of technical debt. So balancing that out. You do need to be really organised. Working across multiple clients, it takes time and effort to keep track of what needs doing for each one. This is probably where I struggled the most. I'm probably not the world's most organised person. Still finishing off my slides just before this talk. But over time, I've learned to develop the skills and the techniques that allow me to cope with that and stay on top of it. I've got remarkable notepads so I can keep track of all different clients in different places rather than having a different notebook for each client, that kind of thing. You need to be pretty adaptable in this role. You're facing multiple challenges daily, and like working for any startup, everybody pitches in to do what's needed. You're constantly learning new things, cloud skills, data protection, GDPR, security, App Store rules and regulations. This is all the stuff that I've had to pick up. And I enjoy doing that. So if you don't love learning, it's probably not the role for you. And I think finally, you need to be really good at explaining things, at translating tech issues into words that less technical folks can really understand and relates to their problem. So, in short, a fractional CTO is a part-time tech expert who helps startups create the right technology at the right time. Thank you.